Well, if there was no synergy, then why wouldn't we just take testosterone?
Hey, what's going on, guys? On this episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, we are going to discuss steroid synergy, the idea of 1 + 1 = 3. We've talked about it on other programs before, but I wanted to get Skip and Andrew's opinions. After that, we're asked if we could only pick one brand of equipment to outfit a gym, what brand would it be? And then from there, we've got like a ton of listener questions, and we're going to just rapid fire those motherfuckers out. If you guys enjoy our content, then do me a favor, hit the like button and leave us a comment, plus comments, likes, all that stuff. It helps to boost us up in the algorithm. And hey, if you're new here, let me encourage you to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. We've got several bodybuilding podcasts coming out each week, tons of entertainment and education to help you do better at the sport that we love, make faster gains, and stay safe in the process. All right, guys, let's get to the program. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear. Of course, I'm here with Skip Hill and Andrew Berry. I'm Scott McNally. We've been coaching now. Skip's been coaching for 20 years. Andrew for 14. I'm just behind him at 13 years. So literally, we've seen a whole lot of people transform their physiques. And we're here today to freely share our education with you to help you do better at this sport that we love. All of our programming is brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. You can use our code THINK for some additional savings. If you're in Canada, check out supplementsource.ca. You can get good blowout deals on closeout items. Plus, you can get like Afridrin and like fancy Canadian supplements that you can't get here like that. Also, guys, thank you to everybody who's been supporting our programming on Patreon. Today we have a topic: steroid synergy. Steroid synergy. Was that very YouTube?
Wah, wah. You could use the horn right there. That would have worked out beautiful.
Would the horn be good? I've got this party noise.
I don't know. The horn is always good.
How about this one? Like steroid synergy. No.
That's not bad. Ooh.
Yeah, it's gotta be like, ooh.
Yeah, that would be
Something
good.
like that.
That would be good. All right.
I was at the Grand Prix a couple weeks ago, the show, and I don't usually go to shows very often. Yeah. And I heard somebody use a horn. I was like, oh, Scott's here.
Oh, you're talking about like somebody brought an air horn to the contest?
Yeah. So I equate the air horn now to the podcast. Every time I hear it, I think about Scott using it. Let me just make a point too. When you get your Team Skip protein from True Nutrition, because I know everybody when they use protein uses Skip protein. There you go. Marshmallow treat. I'm telling you, I'm not moved. I'm not moved in my like guts and in my core by a flavor. And usually new ones, like I get them and I'm like, they're not bad. I'm gonna say, but I'm not like overwhelmed by them.
Marshmallow
Red Velvet. I'm like, oh, that's good. Marshmallow treat is like a fucking grand slam. I was really impressed. Like I'm like, it's funny because I have to keep myself from going to the bag sometimes because I'm like, I'm gonna run out. I'm gonna run out before my next order. So I try to like,
Do you ever do the
make sure.
Maple pecan? That's my jam. I knew one that I found.
Didn't like it. And that's where the preference comes into play. I mean, some people like different things. I just wasn't a big fan. And anything with cinnamon in it, like pumpkin spice, I don't want, Dante to text me and be like, what the fuck, dude? But I'm like, this tastes like Fireball. Like, this shouldn't taste like this. I'm not sure. And then other people will say, I freaking love pumpkin spice. And I normally like pumpkin spice, but I'm like, not working for me. So everybody has their preference. But if you're not sure and you're going to order protein from True Nutrition, check out the marshmallow treat because I'd be pretty surprised if you didn't like it.
Nice. All right. Well, listen, let's get to our topic. We'll dive into some steroid talks. That's what people on YouTube want to hear. Talking about steroids. Steroid synergy, for real, though. We talk about the idea of, one compound does one thing, another compound, basically 1 + 1 = 3. First of all, do you guys believe that there is such a thing as steroid synergy?
Well, definitely. Especially when it comes to like peptides, like GH and insulin, like used together.
Yeah.
There's absolutely synergy there. Anyone that says otherwise, your shit's fake. Yeah. But in terms of compounds, like we're talking about like building like the perfect cycle, that kind of thing. I mean, obviously you're taking a testosterone usually as a base, adding any other anabolic into the mix, there is some synergy there, right? I mean, unless you're just compounding it with more testosterone, but I think there's absolutely synergy between, adding a nandrolone based drug, adding, testosterone based drug, going the DHT route. I think there's absolutely, but I think more importantly, it comes down to personal preference based off of lack of side effects with the compounds.
There you go. Yep. Yeah. I agree with that too.
Like that's my main thing. When I ask people, like, okay, when they're ready to start a cycle, I kind of ask them, okay, what do you have on hand? What have you had good experiences with? Is there anything that you've used in the past that is just like a non-starter, or like you're like, man, honestly, a lot of times it's like tren. People are like, man, I like the effects of tren, but I hated the effects of tren, if you get what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. The insomnia, the way I was feeling, the way I was treating other people. My wife said I had to quit bodybuilding if I'm ever going to use this drug again. So that's a non-starter for me. So I do think the synergy comes with finding the compounds that work well for the person in terms of lack of side effects.
I think that hits the nail on the head. I think, we did this topic on drugs and stuff, and Dave Crossland, he was against the idea of steroid synergy. And I think it comes down to how do we define it? And the way he was defining it was saying that it was going to create this magical third effect, where like you have peaches and you have nectarines and you put them together and now you have watermelons. You know what I mean? It's like,
let me ask you this about Dave. Has he ever competed in a bodybuilding show?
No, he hasn't.
Gone to like stage condition. Okay, no, so then I could see why he would say that then.
I think though I can see that. Would you say that, because can you take one steroid and another steroid and make a third steroid? I think if you're defining it that way, then the answer is probably no. I don't think that you get a third steroid out of it, but you do get some really good, like one of my worst cycles was I got into, D-ball. Then I did test. I did test in D-ball. Then I did test in DECA. I had really bad recovery from that. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do a cycle of just test. And I took 1 gram and it was Sustanon, and I broke out so bad. Like that test, I took all that test and then I broke out terribly. My thought process was it's about the same amount of milligrams. Instead of 500 tests, 400 DECA, I'm taking just 1,000 tests, right? I ended up doing a lot better on that test DECA cycle because I didn't get all the side effects from all that goddamn test. You know what I'm saying? So to me, there was a nice synergistic effect there of being able to push the total milligrams up, make some good progress. I was in a much more anabolic state than I would have been having just used just the test alone at 500. They complemented each other really well, I guess is what my point would be. And that's to me what a synergy is complementary compounds.
Well, if there was no synergy, then why wouldn't we just take testosterone?
Which is a very, very good point. And Scott, you were going where I was going to go as far as defining synergy. And I just want to say this about Dave, because not that Dave would think this was a slam, but his situation with gear use is different because he's looking at it more from strictly just a muscle building, strength building, size building thing, where I think that's why Andrew asked if he had ever done a show. It wasn't a slam like what does he know? Yeah, I don't want anybody to think we're, going after him. It's just more of that synergy can come down to as you're getting leaner and you're trying to maximize, hold on to muscle tissue, maximize muscle tissue, while still being in ridiculously low body fat levels. And Dave may not understand or not understand, but understand that a synergy component at that particular level. So it's kind of apples and oranges from Dave versus what we're doing in the sense of condition versus just sheer size. But when it comes to the definition, I would almost say that, and I don't know if you guys agree with this or not, but I look at synergy as almost like saying, the majority of people respond this way to this versus, or these combinations, because there's always exceptions. So synergy, if you just say something is synergistic, it's kind of, to me, it implies black and white, that it's just synergistic for everything and in all like every time. That's really not the case. Some people respond very well to combinations of drugs that you typically wouldn't see people respond well to. And I think that until you do gear for a long time, you can't say for sure, maybe you can never say for sure, but you can't say that, well, I responded to this cycle so much better because of the cycle, because the next time you come back to that same cycle, you may be in a completely different place from stress levels, cortisol, diet, caloric level. Intake. Absolutely. I think there's so many variables that you almost really have to come around to that same cycle 3 or 4 times, maybe 5. I mean, I'm throwing arbitrary numbers out to make my point, but 5 times versus just doing it once or twice and going, I respond, because we all know we've come back to very, very similar cycles and even dosing protocols, but we don't always respond as well or sometimes better, depending. So there's just a lot of variables there that I think makes it difficult. Do I think there's synergy? You make the best point, Andrew, and that is we would just take testosterone if there weren't.
Yeah.
If there wasn't, you could just literally run those that one compound, and you would get that. So then I think the question becomes, what do we think is synergistic? I mean, I just throw the one out that would be, for size. I still laugh and say that test DECA and D-ball. If you can't grow on test DECA and D-ball, then you probably should take up golf. And I'm not saying just, you're not going to have sides from that stuff, but I mean, just from a purely growth standpoint, you should be growing pretty well from that. I think that Winstrol and NPP work together in almost kind of a synergistic sort of way. Masteron and or even Proviron, Masteron or Proviron and Test. Obviously, there's a synergy there.
I was thinking
because
of that
you're going to, that one's kind of a no-brainer just because it's going to increase free testosterone level by lowering SHBG. So you also have the added benefit of, a slight or mild anti-estrogen. There are those little things that will fit together for the very large majority or the vast majority of people, but man, to say it goes straight across the board, that's Scott, you took your dosing up and you broke out, but who's to say that that's not even an estrogen related issue? Because I'm not a fan of testosterone because those goddamn esters are so fucking long. Yeah. And let me ask you guys this. Do you get the question about testosterone where people tend to think it's a very short ester because of one of those compounds being short?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's long as fuck. Like it's long as fuck.
Like the amount of short ester in there is like this, whereas the rest of it is like that.
Yeah. You want a short ester, throw some fucking prop in there.
Do you remember that old school idea of loading? Because you know who the Gorilla Chemist was on one of our shows recently, and he said he likes this idea of you remember the running an amp a day of Sustanon for 21 days type thing? That he's subscribed to that type of thing before, and then you don't need to take gear for a long time because now you got that shit just soaring for a period after. So anyway, what were you gonna say, Andrew?
Like 6 things, but I just keep going back to my well, I think the pre-contest is the most clear-cut example we can use of synergy with drugs, because I would imagine 95% of prep guys recommend to their clients the same 5 compounds, varying dosages, probably. But there's going to be a test base. There's probably going to be Masteron in there. There's probably going to be tren at some point. There's going to be an oral of either Winstrol or Anavar, or sometimes both. And there's going to be something to counteract estrogen, at some point later on in the cycle. That's
absolutely,
there's other things that people can throw in, like, some people respond really well to halo testing. Some people friggin' hate it. Some people really fill out nicely with something like super draw. Other people, maybe the stuff they were getting is fake, or they are prone to the estrogenic side effects, which are not directly caused by the drug, but they start holding water on it. So there's those individual things. But my point is that there's like a main 3, 4, 5 drugs that most people are taking on any national stage and any pro stage on any given show. And the reason for that is because there is synergy with the look they provide when you take those things in conjunction with each other.
Absolutely agree. Yep. All right. Well, hey, let's move on to some questions. I don't have a screen cap of the first one. I can't remember where I found it, but I gathered it up today, and I was hunting because I was like, this will be a good first one. Can't find it. But his question was, if you could only pick one brand of machines, training machines, what brand would you go with?
I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fun because there's so many good brands out there, but to limit it to one, man, and go with, like, I couldn't do Prime because I work out at home and I'd fit like one machine in my whole basement. You know what I'm saying?
Well, let's say you had a warehouse available to you. You had, 60,000 square foot facility, and you could outfit it with, I guess, one brand is what we're saying for across the board. That's hard.
I can call it. I can call it because It's just tried and because I'm old school, it's tried and true and it's been around. I'm just going to go with hammer strength because if I were to build a gym, I guess this is how I look at it. If I were to build a gym, obviously I wouldn't go with one line, but it would be predominantly hammer strength for a couple reasons. Number one, I fucking love it. You can hit, I mean, there's just every fucking angle possible. And biomechanically, it's damn near flawless. I have only come across a couple pieces of hammer strength that I just think this is kind of useless. Like this, or a safety issue. They make a leg press. One of their gen leg presses is horrible because the hook catches are behind the platform, so you can't see them catch. And I just think that is incredibly fucking dangerous. And the handle is wonky, so it's not a clear cut lock versus not lock. You got to pull it in, push it down, and then pull it up and pull it out. It's not a good machine. But by and large, the vast majority, I've said vast 3 times. I'm going to have to come up with a different word. That it's
overwhelming.
It's just, yeah, exactly. It's just usually a go-to. Now, if you're going to make me pick machines that are selectorized, shit, I'm going with Icarian. Icarian has been around for so long. I'm sorry. I didn't. Yeah,
you can only pick one, Skip, and you picked hammer.
I know. I'm sorry. And then I'm ready to go with the new line. I'm like, if it was a new line, I'd pick this. But go for it. And I have to say Elite FTS because I'm with Elite FTS, and they make some of the strongest equipment on the fucking planet.
Yeah, they do.
My only argument with Elite FTS is. And this is the reason that even though all the gyms I've ever trained in my life, I have never one time seen a piece of Elite FTS, probably because I don't train powerlifting gyms too. Exactly. But it's very, very, it's so over the top strong that the large majority, not vast, but the large majority of people don't want to spend that money as gym owners because they don't have people in there who are going to test the limits or the capacity of those machines from a strength standpoint. So it doesn't seem, the cost to benefit really doesn't seem to be there.
Janae Kroc did here in Michigan. So come on up.
Fucking right.
Get a good workout.
Yeah, no question.
So
she'll mess some shit up too with big numbers, and you know Josh McMillan.
Oh yeah, okay.
You know he's a friend of mine. I mean, one of the top 10 benchers. I mean, the guy is just absolutely fucking stacked and jacked, and always is. Super nice guy too.
So what do you got, Andrew? Were you going with Icarian?
First on that note, you just mentioned bench press. I've been in 2 different cities over the last 2 weekends, and probably 3 times between those 2 weeks, people come up to me and say, "Yo, how much do you bench?" And I'm like, "Not much." Like, because it's that question everybody asks, "How much do you bench?" And I'm like, 275 for like 8 maybe right now. I don't know. I haven't gotten under a bench, but anyway, I was going to go with Icarian. I just like the way it feels more than anything. I don't think they have enough machines to cover the full body, or maybe I just haven't been exposed to them. But the pieces that I have had, like a hack squat or leg presses, that kind of stuff, I've just really, really enjoyed. So I'm going to assume that some of their upper body equipment is just as good. Like I've had their chest press, which is good. But I think you were right, Skip, because hammer strength does something for every muscle group, and they do something well for every muscle group. They do have kind of a shittier line too, with the ones where like the selectorized stack. I don't think they do great on the selectorized stack machines. But the plate loaded machines, they got 6 different variations for low rows. I feel like you can't go wrong there. But so besides hammer strength, I'd probably go Icarian. That's
Icarian's good. Atlantis is another good one that if you see Atlantis equipment,
agreed.
They've got solid stuff. I would love to check out more Prime stuff. I haven't used a lot of their equipment. I like everything I've used by Strive.
It looks cool.
Yeah. And you know what too, if you were opening a gym and you had like all Prime equipment, I feel like that would be like a big, like a hipster selling spot. You know what I mean? Like
it is.
It really would be. In the same thing I think would go with Arsenal. If you had like all Arsenal equipment, it'd be like a hipster selling spot. But I would love to get more involved with like trying more Prime equipment, because I know they use a lot of the stuff that Strive did, a lot of those same ideas. And I like Strive equipment a lot. Strive was great. But I know that like here in Detroit, RTB Gym, he's got several Strive pieces. And he was saying like, they don't even make pieces for these machines anymore. So if they break, they have to be fabricated. Like,
well, they're cheaper. They're significantly cheaper. So fixing them might be
worth it.
It would be a lot less expensive. See, and I don't see Arsenal as hipster. I see Arsenal as pretty fucking badass. If I had to go with new line equipment, like someone said, you can only go, I would definitely go with Arsenal. I think Arsenal is fucking good. And I don't see them as,
they're right. Like I would say
Prime, I do.
I would say Prime and Arsenal are both like cool. They're cool brands, you know.
They're the new,
I just think
they're the new
Arsenal's
kids on the
better.
block in a sense. But I would say this though, like, have you done the Arsenal pendulum squat versus like the Atlantis pendulum squat?
Atlantis is nice. I have
Day and night.
Atlantis is solid. Like, all right, the Arsenal, you get the weight up here, it goes like this. Okay, I don't know if you've noticed that, but like for some reason the arm isn't strong enough. So like I feel like I'm rocking this way. Where Atlantis, I'm straight up and down, like, and I'm feeling it right.
It's probably because you're using more weight on the pendulum than I am, so that might have. I'll tell you what I liked about the Arsenal pendulum is the platform is adjustable for the angle, which I'm like, oh shit, they were thinking. Somebody was actually thinking when they put this piece together. Whoa. That's freaking awesome.
I could do one better than you. Have you guys used Watson? The Watson hack squat.
No. Not the dumbbells though. I don't want their dumbbells.
No. Have you used the hack squat?
I haven't.
Hydraulic. No. You can hydraulically change it in intraset.
Oh, no kidding.
So,
I've heard of that one.
So, and you can adjust the platform, I think 6 different levels. So you can make it you could be like a dead true squat. And in that set, let's say, and 2 plates on there feels like 4 plates on a regular barbell squat, right? So you could be doing that. You max out. Your buddy could be behind you, hitting the button, or I think it's a lever, lowering it down degrees as you go. So now you're here, and then you fail there, you can lower you down even more. So you're failing, or so you can lower it. Yeah, you can change the angle intra-set, which is actually pretty crazy. We did a couple crazy sets with that. They have one down at MI40 down in Tampa.
Yeah, I know they make. Have you ever seen their dumbbells? Like they have like the spinning handles.
Are they the thick ones?
They spin. They're like the dumbbells they spin. They're loose. Yeah. It's weird,
so
and they are thick. They are thick.
All dumbbells would spin back in like the 80s and shit. Now I've never had a locked. Oh, other than the Hex dumbbells, those would be locked. But shit, plates that I had to laugh. Plates that were actually locked with a pin. Nah, it didn't happen.
Scott, you're talking about like you pick the dumbbell up and the sides are spinning like this versus not just round dumbbells, right?
No, they're like the you've got the handle and it's a fat grip handle, and then within
it rotates.
Yeah, it's like on a little gyro thing, so that the handle itself, so like if you go to do like a lateral raise when your hands come up, the dumbbell doesn't twist with it. The dumbbell sits in the same spot, but the handle twists. So
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. I've tried to like it because they look so cool. They have a set of.
It would probably look cool while you're doing them because it would look like those spinners on
like the rims wheels.
Yeah, like when you're stopped at a light, but they're still going. That would be cool.
Yeah,
you could have glitter on it.
Back in 2001.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the deal. We have a bunch of questions, like more questions than we could probably get through. We've got like a half hour, 25 minutes to blow through these. Thank you for tuning in to another podcast here at Think Big Bodybuilding Media. If we've provided value to you today, then please consider contributing to our show. You can help support the show through Patreon. Every $5 helps to pay for the software and the hardware and everything else that goes into making a podcast. You can also contribute by using our code at True Nutrition. True Nutrition has been our title sponsor for several years now. I'm super grateful for them, and I've believed in True Nutrition supplements long before they sponsored our programming. You could use our code THINK for health supplements and performance supplements. Feel free to hit me up if you have any questions. And if you're in Canada, check out supplementsource.ca. They have free shipping over $99, huge discounts on overstocked, short-dated, and label-changed products. Plus, they have all your normal supplements too. Thank you guys for listening to the commercial. I hope you're having a great day and that your bodybuilding is going well. Let's get back to the show. So I'm going to throw these things at you guys rapid fire. Here we go. We're going to start right here.
No talking.
You can't skip. Can't talk. You can't talk anymore. Andrew brought up a chiropractor toward the end of speaking on injuries. What are your guys' thoughts on seeing a chiropractor, even if you're not dealing with injuries? I've always been a little skeptical of them.
Yes, your turn.
Yes. I think it's a smart thing to do, especially if you have a chiropractor that's not one of, like the saying is like, once you meet a chiropractor, you're married to him. If you don't have a chiropractor that's like pushing you on this plan of, I need to see you 4 times a week for 3 months. And then one of those guys is kind of a quack. Probably he's just trying to bleed you for money. But if you have a chiropractor that's an athlete themselves, they'll tell you when they need to see you, or they'll tell you like, hey, let's just do like once every 3 weeks. I think you're good there. If anything flares up, come see me in the meantime. And that's my chiropractor. So
I would say for me personally, I've gotten a lot more out of having a good soft tissue person. And then if we're gonna pick one person to see on a more regular basis, if I could afford to, it'd probably be soft tissue, but chiropractor as needed for sure. That'd be my thought. All right.
If you get a chiropractor that does both, you're in luck.
Yes. All right. Troy asks why, and he asked this on another show too. Why are traps never used for injection sites? They are larger muscle groups, but larger than the deltoid.
I'm not putting a needle that close to my spine. Yeah, I'm not putting a needle that close to my spine. Go, Andrew.
You got more nerves there.
Have you ever done a trap shot? Either of you?
Nope.
No.
All right.
And I've done a lot of fucking shots.
You can say more than once.
Never will.
Skip. Just so you know, you're having a hard time here. All caps, so it's very important from Dalton. Dalton, you can take it there.
How to set up a ham back day. We'll be secondary back day, and we'll have hit 2 ham curls on my normal leg day. Needing to improve overall hams and lat width and thickness. Upper mid back is overdeveloped compared to lats. Take it.
I'm going to go back to, I just saw something that Dorian put out recently. Dorian, yeah, it was good. He was like, look, don't add extra volume in. That's not the reason. You need to find a better connection to that muscle group. So change the way you're presenting to the exercise and how you're executing the exercise over just adding more volume to it, because that's probably not the answer. And then I'll leave it at that.
I was too busy screaming. I don't remember what the fucking answer or what the question was. This is so bad. It backfired on me. It just backfired.
Sorry, because Andrew had a good answer for that one.
Yeah.
We got a comment for Skip. We got a comment for Skip here. Additionally, I had no idea how jacked Skip was until I saw his thumbnail pop up in the comment. Damn.
Thumbnail?
It must have been when you were commenting on a previous episode. One of the episodes you weren't there for. You're jacked.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't,
yeah,
or maybe it was like that was the thumbnail for the picture.
I don't know. I appreciate it either way, but I'm like, I'm trying to think of when I looked so jacked that someone would be impressed.
Oh, get out of here, dude. People have been impressed with you for a long time.
Let's see what else we got here.
Not just for conditioning.
Okay.
But it is nice when people notice your conditioning, right?
No question. I that's why I don't want to downplay. I'll take a compliment anywhere I can get it, and I'm flattered by it.
All right. Max Holliday's with us on the live feed. He asks us, Doc is saying that I need a total shoulder replacement, and then went on to say that I can't train anymore because I could potentially loosen the pins, bolts, securing them down. Is this BS or not? Sorry to hear that, by the way, Max. Longtime listener.
I can't think of any reason he would say that, though, if it was bullshit. I mean, I don't know what his motivation would be. Being a doctor, because I'm not a doctor and I don't play one on the podcast, the internet, or via email, I would say listen to him before listening to us in a situation like that.
I thought you were going to say, or the bedroom. I don't know why I was waiting for that.
I'm going to go against you here because I know who we are, and I know who, like if someone told you, Skip, you're getting a shoulder replacement, you can never do anything for your shoulders again. Wouldn't you go into the gym after you recovered and test out this, test out that?
Not sure. If that's what he meant, I missed that. I thought it was just while it was recovering.
No, I took that as the doctor saying you're done lifting anything over your head, side laterals, even bench pressing.
Oh, fuck you're done. That. Okay.
Yeah,
fuck that.
And
I
honestly,
thought it was during
Doctors will use like statements like that, just I think so that you don't completely re-injure it. But I think I mean, we're all smart people. You can find workarounds, right, to stimulate the tissue. Is it as optimal as when you were a healthy guy? Absolutely not, but you can still do something.
I totally agree.
97, I think it was, when I had my bunch of cartilage removed out of my left knee, ACL replaced as well. They were like, you can never use leg extensions again. And they told me not to squat either. Guess what? I got a power squat and a leg extension in my house. I've been doing it for 20 fucking years. So there's that.
Yeah.
All right.
And now you're a 1,000-pound squatter, right?
Right. I can't even use my Cadillac bar or my Transformer bar, unfortunately, yet. All right. So I'm going to a bunch of stuff we had on Instagram. Have you seen any benefit to Tren A 75 milligrams the last 6 weeks of prep? Wait, what? Of course Of course we have. Have you seen any benefit? Yeah. Last 6. Oh, and maybe he means like, do you need to run it longer? Let's ask it that way. Maybe that's what he meant.
I'm a 6 weeks or even a 5 or 4 week out guy with Tren myself, with athletes that I work with. I'm not throwing it in at 10 weeks out. Like the odd case where someone's like, oh, I like to run Tren at 10 weeks out. We talk about the benefits and the negatives of that. I leave that up to them. But for me, I recommend it at 5 weeks out.
8 weeks for me.
For me, it depends more on dosage. If it is mild dose, this is just me. I'm not saying right or wrong. I don't have any problem going at 10 weeks if the dosage. I think what happens these days within the last, 5-7 years, everybody tends to want to run the dosages for Tren much higher than is actually needed. And I think even guys at higher levels, they just don't need those dosages. So I don't have any problem running it to 10. However, if it's not needed at that point and things are going, then of course it doesn't need to go in. But I think I'm kind of a 10-week guy, give or take. I don't usually like to go any longer than that.
Would we all be in agreement that like some of these prep cycles we see where Tren's starting at 20 weeks out is completely unnecessary?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One of our listeners said that recently. They're like, I'm on Tren and a bunch of other stuff. I'm 20 weeks out. I'm like, what you gonna do when you get to 4 weeks out? I would say 6 to 8.
Hell of a gamble.
6 to 8's average.
Hell of a gamble with a $32 million plane, Lieutenant.
You like saying
for me personally, like I like to throw Tren in as like, okay, we're pretty much already in shape. And then and not that like Tren's a fat burning drug. I'm not trying to get that out there, but I want to see majority of what you're going to look like before we add in like the icing on the cake, such as Tren. You know what I mean? Like I want to get a general idea. Fat loss is under control. Like we're right in striking distance. We're 2-3 weeks from reaching our condition, like the way we want it for stage. So then we'll throw it in and you're just going to get better and better. I feel like some people throw it in earlier to try to kind of, I feel like it might trick themselves and their coaches into thinking they're in better condition than they are sometimes, because Tren can kind of have that effect with, you know what I mean, with the graining, the fullness and everything. And I just I would rather wait and hold that as like a, 1 month or, 6 weeks out kind of thing.
Let me just throw a thought on the other side of that and that's with Tren and with orals, and is when they come in later, and they may not, I don't usually bring them in together, but within a few weeks of each other, then the recovery, even in that caloric deficit, there's such a shift in recovery that the training just becomes so much, I don't know, not just the look and everything, but there's just a shift in recovery, a shift in kind of how they feel. And the other thing is when that dosing is low or lower, they tend to not have, most people don't usually have as much problem with sleep and the negatives that kind of impact your quality of life when it comes to the later stages of prep too.
Okay.
Not always. It's not a black and white rule, but I think it doesn't, the lower doses don't hit them as hard.
No, well, I got a follow up for you then, even though this is rapid fire, we're doing it. Minimal effective dose if you were to work with somebody in a prep using Tren. Minimum effect per like how low would you go to still make it worthwhile?
2 mil a week will still work incredibly well for most people, I think.
So
you're adding a compound that wasn't there before. Day? Well, here's the thing: they list Tren as 76 milligram per mil, but whether it's 76 mil or 100 mil, or we could argue about the difference of why it would be 76 or 100. But typically, you're getting Tren acetate at 100 milligram, the way that it's made in it. So at 2 mil, you're talking like 200 milligram. You're adding in a compound that otherwise wasn't there. You're going to benefit from it. Each person is going to benefit differently. But what I'm saying is that 200 200 meg. That 200 meg is stronger than most of any other shit you're going to take at 200 meg. And it just has added benefits. Like Andrew was saying, you're not really going to burn more body fat, but there's an argument that there is some kind of difference that you can't put your finger on when it comes to lean. It could just be that everybody's in prep when they use it, but there is just something extra there with the tren compound.
Some call it synergy.
It could be called synergy. It could be called synergy. Very, very well placed.
That was good.
Minimum effective dose, though, that I got a guy using 20 milligrams a day.
There you
He's
go.
competing this weekend. So.
Oh, no shit.
All right.
Wow.
Do you guys know anything about lowering, seeing that you have low white blood cells while on cycle?
Well, I guess you got to figure out why do you have low white blood cells. You're probably crushing your immune system on some level, because like testosterone. There's a metabolite called I'm going to botch the name. It begins with an E. It's like etiocholine. It's the one that pops up when you got test flu. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Crickets.
No.
Okay, so you know how we talk about the test flu?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
When you're bumping your test dosage up, it's because you're creating this metabolite, which I believe, and I'm going to botch it, but I think it's called etiocholine something. Okay, and it downregulates the immune system, and I'm thinking that's probably what we're looking at here with the lowered white blood cells, unless there's kidney or liver issues. So that's the other thing to look at.
All right. Mini cuts to prolong a growing phase. How much, how do you know to change, how much do you change calories training cardio supplements?
Well, it's not much about body fat. It's about resensitization, but this is a huge gray area. I mean, it's got to be big enough for you to get the impact, but not so big that it's going to, I don't say offset your progress, but I mean, you don't want to set yourself back and be too aggressive with it too. That's a hard one because it's just going to be different for everybody. Ballpark. I mean, I can't because if you're in a growth and you're just pushing calories big time, then 400 or 500 calories may not do much of anything. So, and then for other people, it could be dramatic. So it depends. It depends on the condition as far as whether you're in a massive surplus, if you're in a smaller surplus, you're spinning your wheels. But again, I think my biggest point here is you don't do a mini cut, I don't think, to just get lean. That isn't you're actually doing it to resensitize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Of course we do. That's the answer. And the question was, do any of you guys use or believe in DC training stretches?
Yes.
Yes, we believe.
Yeah,
in
definitely. Yeah, definitely believe in it. The concept's rock solid. Do I do them? I admit that I don't do them, which is kind of odd.
Here's the problem.
It's contradictory.
It's kind of like abs, right? Like we all in our head program ab training twice a week or whatever the hell, right? If there's one thing that's going to get cut out on training day, it's going to be ab training. Right.
Okay.
Like, I mean,
yeah,
you're going to do your bread and butter, your meat and potatoes, Scott. And then
Thank you.
You're probably going to get your calves and oh shit, abs. But I got to go pick up my kids or I got to go do the grocery. I'll do it tomorrow. The DC stretches, I find, unless you're doing a true DC program and you're checking in with Dante every week or someone like Dusty, that's probably going to be something that you're hit or miss on as well. But they are extremely effective.
Can I spin off on this or just ask you guys a real quick question? I know we got to be quick about this, but I have always believed that if you do train through a full range of motion and your exercises are not limited, like your flies or your dumbbell flies are weak because there's not a full range of motion, your stretching on chins and lat pulls are limited at the top, like you're not in full stretch mode for each rep, things like that. If you're not opening up, is what I call it, on most, pretty much all of your exercises, then I think the DC type stretching can have more of an impact. But I think if you're training through full range of motion on a lot of damn near all your exercises, I think that has a lot of the same benefit as well. Maybe not to the degree of DC training, but I think it's just well, I don't want to get into it, but I guess what I'm saying is that full range of motion, if you train through a full range of motion and you have exercises that are stretching like dumbbell flies and opening up at the top of lat, chins and lat pulls and things like that, I do think, using sissy squats or true sissy squats, not the new sissy squat piece, because someone will point that out that it's not the same thing, even though it's called a sissy squat, but whatever. I get the point. But if you have at least one exercise or two exercises per muscle group that really open up a stretch like that, I do think that is it's not as good as DC training, but it's still good in the sense that you're going to stretch the fascia, maybe not to the degree of DC training, but you're going to stretch the fascia. You guys agree with that, or am I just way off on that?
I definitely agree, yeah, I would agree with that. In fact, that's what I was kind of saying in my training on the previous episode, that I'll have some sort of stretch component in there, not necessarily a true DC stretch. Mm-hmm. All right, let's see here. Thoughts on a second blast cycle? 400 milligrams a test, 200 milligrams a deca. The first cycle was just 400 milligrams a test. Thank you.
I'm going to say the deca might be a little low. Like the overall load of the milligrams of the cycle might be a little low for a second cycle. If you already, he did 400 mgs a test to start out?
Yep, that was his first cycle. I guess it depends how well he did with that, right? I mean,
it depends on how long ago it was, if he came completely off, if he was running TRT. I mean, there are variables there, but I tend to have to agree. I mean, it is a little bit low. I don't know that it wouldn't work, but I might be, if it were me, a little bit more aggressive with the adding second compound, because if you don't come out of it with some obvious change, I mean, you're the other thing is you can always, exactly. You could always go up. I mean, if you wanted to start at 200 and you don't like what you see after 4 to 5 weeks, then bump it up, double it. I mean, 300-400.
I mean, well, I think though, like the average person, they do a cycle, they start out 400 and 200, they go 3 weeks, they're going to get impatient. So I guess what I'm thinking is you might as well just go 400 to start with,
I don't think I don't think that's overboard where someone would go, oh, I'm not sure it's too high. I'm gambling here. That sort of thing. I don't think it's ridiculously high, so I can't disagree with that.
Okay. Or I might even say just go 500, 550 tests. Like if you had great response with 400 megs a test, bump your test up just a little bit and see how that goes.
No deca, you're saying. There's a little more test.
No deca. Yeah.
Keep the deca in the toolbox.
Okay, kind of related then, but from another listener. Do you think that a dose of 500 milligrams a week is worth it if living bodybuilding lifestyle without competition?
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say this though, like, because I talk a lot of people out of competing actually. And to me, like your bodybuilding journey, I hate using that term, but the bodybuilding journey or your fitness journey, whatever you want to call it, that's all individual. Like there's no one that says you got to go up there and get on stage in a little suit to try to compete for a plastic trophy, right? Like if you want to be jacked and tan and that's your goal, like absolutely, like take as much stuff as you want to take. I mean, be safe about it.
And do you agree that do you agree that that's bodybuilding? I always had an issue with people saying if you don't compete, and it's just kind of, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say this, but it's kind of douchey to say that someone can't call themselves a bodybuilder because they don't stand on stage. You can clearly bodybuild and not stand on stage and compete. I think it's kind of silly to say.
I agree with you because I have plenty of friends that live the bodybuilding lifestyle more so than the majority of competitors I know out there, meaning 52 weeks out of the year, they're a bodybuilder, eating their 6 meals a day, having one free meal. You know what I mean? Like they're living that lifestyle, doing their cardio. They just don't get on stage, Yeah.
I think it depends too, like how deep you are in bodybuilding to like your perspective on that, because I could see how some people who like really follow the show, but they have never competed, don't have any aspiration to, they might be like, am I really a bodybuilder? I think they are. But I remember when I was involved with photography real heavily, there was the question like, are you really a photographer? Or are you just a guy that owns a camera? You know what I mean? Because, and I think that like for any of us to have this conversation, and me being 20 years removed from that now, be like, fuck yeah, I'm a photographer. I take my phone everywhere I go. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think if you buy a nice camera and you're trying to artistically, or you're coming up with a certain genre of pictures you take, then you're absolutely a photographer, right? Yeah. Like, I mean, if you went through the trouble of buying a nice camera, buying lenses, learning about what aperture and stuff like that,
having a passion,
I think
about
absolutely. Yeah, that's.
I'm not going to. I don't mean this by like I'm trying to one up you guys, but I think really if you think you're a bodybuilder and you consider yourself a bodybuilder, you're a bodybuilder. Fuck everybody else and what they. I mean, and same thing I think with a photographer. We can look at it because we're in a judgmental society anyway. We're constantly judging, but and I understand why, because we want to kind of almost say, well, we're more serious than you are, so you can't have this label. Really is kind of what we're saying. But I think ultimately it just comes down to what you think. We can laugh about someone thinking that they're an Instagram model, but if you think you're an Instagram model, fucking do you. Fuck, I don't give a shit.
All right, what else can we get through here? Primo, real? ? Versus Masteron E, real. He has no question mark after that one. He says, Primo, real? Versus Masteron, real, at 500 milligrams with TRT for slight size and strength boost. Which would be a good idea?
That's not TRT.
I'd go
for one thing.
Yeah, that's a very good
on
point.
top of his TRT is what he means. So.
I think it's apples and oranges. I think it's apples and oranges. Really, I mean, if I would take that, this is just me. I would take that Primo all day, because the Masteron, that dose of Masteron with TRT is a really odd, out of whack ratio. You number one, you wouldn't need that much. Yeah, you really wouldn't need that much Masteron for a TRT dose. In saying that, I guess. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you're doing that, you might actually want to somehow supplant some estrogen into your cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if you're running like 125 or 200 mgs a test and you're doing 500 mgs of Masteron, I would check that estradiol, make sure you're not low.
And you know what? I don't want to slam the guy who asked this, but I have to question if you understand that and he's asking a question, so maybe he doesn't. But Masteron and Primo are kind of not. You're not comparing Primo to, like, say, NPP or EQ. You're comparing it to a drug that I don't consider to be as AAS as Primo or NPP, or it's. I don't want to say it's. I look at it, I think, a little bit differently than you guys. I look at Masteron as more of like not an ancillary, but halfway between an ancillary and a AAS. I don't look at it like most Masteron, like most people do. I see it as a complement to testosterone than I do an actual AAS compound. So it's a little bit different perspective for me.
Are you saying, just to summarize, are you saying that you see it as like something to add to a testosterone cycle so that you can take less AIs?
Not only just less AIs, but to make the testosterone more effective,
more effective. Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it's almost like if you're taking, say, 500 milligrams of testosterone and you add Masteron to it, it's almost like saying you're making that 500 more the equivalent of like a 650. In the sense that free testosterone is more important than total testosterone anyway, by lowering SHBG, and it just becomes more effective. It's optimizing the testosterone that you're using. That's synergy. Kind of just the perspective. Yeah. Again, synergy.
That was too slow on my buttons there. All right, let's see if we got anything to wrap up with here. I think there was a question in the. Let me see if there's anything in the live feed.
I got one if you need one.
Here it is. So we still have. Okay, here we go.
Okay, you got plenty of them. Cool.
Anavar versus Winstrol in prep. Ooh, here's the battle. It's going to be 2 against 1. Which do you
And that's prefer, a client of mine, too.
And why, or both? You set him up, Devin. Let's knock him down, Andrew.
Look, it just comes down to personal preference. And, like, for me, I did my first couple geared up cycle or contest preps using Anavar. And then I couldn't get Anavar, so I went with Winstrol. I liked the look of Winstrol better. Maybe it was the purity, maybe it was the sourcing, et cetera. But I have since typically used Winstrol. I like Anavar. It's just I don't like it as much as Winstrol. I know you're going to go the other way, Skip.
I tell you, I'm an Anavar guy, but Devin will back me up on that. I do like both at a lower dose. Like, let's say you're going to go with a total dose of Anavar. I'd rather split it in half and go Anavar and Winstrol. Anavar, you guys know, I consider it the gold standard. I just think that real Anavar is just fucking incredible. But Winstrol has its on paper traits, of being, and it's funny because it's got its pros and cons. For some people, it will make their joints a little bit drier. Sure. You just feel more rickety, I guess is the best way that I can explain it. But then you also have the potential on paper for it to counter a little bit, when it comes to prolactin too. So running them with, tren or shit, which is typically going to happen when you're putting in Winstrol, it can be Andrew, synergistic. Synergy.
Would you guys agree, though? Would you guys agree that if you're working with a client and you want them using an oral over the last 4 weeks for show, and they're like, I can only get A or I can only get B, you're not going to be that like, oh, the prep's ruined. Like,
oh God, no.
Right.
We're not going to bring the look.
Yeah, it's right? not
like that.
Yeah.
Unless the VAR's fake, then I'm good with either. You know what I'm saying? That's my only concern is like, where are you getting it from?
Yeah.
And
just don't inject the Winstrol.
Yes.
For fuck's sake, do not. Number one abscess compound in the world, and you just don't need, even if you get it in liquid form, just put it in your fucking mouth. I know that's circa 2001, but it still holds true today. Just don't put it under your skin, for fuck's sake. You're asking for a problem.
All right.
Let me bring this up, though. Let me ask you one question real quick. Would you guys use Winstrol in an off season if you were going to use an oral, or would you use Anavar in the off season if you're going to use an oral?
Anavar all day.
Me too.
Same here. Yeah,
I would have Anavar all day.
Time and a place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
All right. We are, speaking of time, we are out of it. You guys, we blew through, but that was fast. Like, we did a bunch of questions there in that 25-30 minute block. So it was good stuff. Hope you guys appreciated it at home. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you guys want to reach out to any of us for coaching, we'd be happy to help you out. Go to teamskip.com to reach out to Skip. You can go to bodyberry.com to reach out to Andrew. McNallyDiets@gmail.com. Email me there. And of course, check out our awesome sponsors, TrueNutrition.com. What's that flavor, Skip? The marshmallow, what?
Marshmallow treat.
Marshmallow treat. I have to order some stuff. I need to get some more collagen, so I'll get some Team Skip flavored with that. Use our code THINK for some additional savings. Check out supplementsource.ca if you're from Canada. Get all your ephedrine there, as well as some blowout deals on awesome supplements. And thank you to everybody who's supporting the programming on Patreon. You guys are freaking, you're helping me to make this thing continue to happen. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And gentlemen, as always, it has been a pleasure.
We got great synergy.
Ooh. Thanks, everybody in the live feed. We appreciate you guys.
See ya.